In section 5.2, we continue to look at slope-intercept form. And we're going to look at 3 steps for writing an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Basic steps, not necessarily always the easiest to do, but at least the steps themselves are fairly basic. First of all, identify the slope, which we call m, find the y-intercept, which we call b, and then once you have those, that part is easy then to write an equation using y equals mx plus b. So we're going to jump in and look at some examples here. Write an equation of the line that passes through the point negative 1, 1 and has a slope of 4. Well, in this case, we already know the slope, so we've already got step 1 set. Now to find the y-intercept, we know that we're going to have an equation that looks like this. Y equals 4x plus b, and similar to something we saw last section, we can then substitute values of x and y from any point on the line. And in this case, we're only given 1 point. So substitute our values of x and y. Y is equal to 1 when x is equal to negative 1. And now we just have one variable in our equation and we can solve for b. So we have 1 equals, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So negative 4 plus b. And then to get b by itself, we want to add 4. Oops, so we end up with, and I probably should have rewritten, let me rewrite that up here. 1 equals negative 4 plus b. We're going to add 4, and we end up with 5 is equal to b. So now we know the slope and the y-intercept. We can go ahead and write our equation. Y is equal to 4x plus 5, since our y-intercept is positive. Number 2, write an equation of the line that passes through the points negative 4, 1 and 2, 13. So first we have to determine the slope. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the 13 here. So 13 minus 1 over, and then because we started with 13 for y, we must start with 2 for x. 2 minus negative 4. So 13 minus 1 will give us 12. 2 minus negative 4 is 6. And 12 over 6 will give us 2. So we know that we have y equals 2x plus b. And again, we have to substitute values for x and y. In this case, we have a choice. We can use either one of these 2 points. Let's say we want to use this one, for example. So we'll say that 1 is equal to 2 times the value of x is negative 4 plus b. So 1 is equal to negative 8 plus b. And then to undo our negative 8, we'll add 8 so that we end up with 9 equals b. And now we know our equation is y equals, our slope is 2, so 2x, and the y-intercept is 9, so plus 9. And notice that if we go and substitute the values of x and y into from the other point in this equation, we should get a true statement. So if we check that, 13, does that equal 2 times 2 plus 9? Does 13 equal, what's the question mark? 4 plus 9. And yes, 13 does equal 13. So that's a good check just to make sure that we have our equation correct. So there is the equation of the line that passes through those 2 lines. Write an equation for the linear function f with the given values. F of 0 equals 3 and f of 2 equals negative 5. And remember that f is essentially the same thing as y here. So if we were to make a table where we have x and then f of x, when x is 0, f of x is 3. An input of 0 gives us an output of 3. An input of 2 gives us an output of negative 5. Now we're kind of in luck here again because we just happen to have been given a value where x is equal to 0, which means our y-intercept is staring right at us, right there. All we need is the slope. So slope is equal to, and let's go ahead and start with negative 5. So negative 5 minus 3 over, and because we started with -5, the lower value, lower in the table, we have to start with the 2 for x, so 2 minus 0. -5 minus 3 means we're getting even more negative, so we have -8. 2 minus 0, of course, is 2. -8 divided by 2 is -4. And again, because we already have the y-intercept here, we're done. We just write y equals -4x plus 3. If this value had not been 0, then we would have to substitute values for x or remember, we could write this f of x to match the format we were given here. F of x equals -4x plus 3. Okay, number 4, the H2O company has noticed that when it prices its deluxe water bottles at $8 each, it sells $2,800 per month. So $8, $2,800 per month. And when it's priced at $10, they sell fewer, only $2,200 per month. If the relationship between price and sales is linear, that's a big if, but if it is linear, predict the monthly sales if the price is set at $14. So what we can do is look at the price, look at input versus output, price and number sold. And we know that at $8, we sell 2,800 of them. And at $10, that number goes down to 2,200. So now we want to look at our slope. So we'll look at the change in the number sold, that's our output. So for example, 2,200 minus 2,800 over the change in the price, 10 minus 8. Okay, so sales went down by 600 when the price went up by $2. And -600 divided by 2 would give us a rate of change of -300. And what that tells us is, again, if the relationship between price and sales is linear, for every dollar the price goes up, sales will go down 300. Now you have a couple of options here. Since we already know the rate of change, you could just look at how far we're going from 10 to 14. And so as we go from, we'll end up at 14 to 10, and we want to know the number sold, so I'll put S for sales minus the number that we sold at 10 was 2,200. We know that has to equal -300. Okay, so what I'm looking at is I'm applying that rate of change. We know that for every dollar we increase the price, we're going to lose 300 sales. So if you look at the difference here, there's a difference of $4. We're increasing the price $4, and essentially what you can end up doing then is multiplying that 4 times -300, which is -1,200, and that tells you how much you're going to lose in sales. Another thing that we can do is determine our y-intercept. So we could say that the number of sales is equal to our slope, -300, times the price, so that's sales, not 5, times the price plus our y-intercept of b. And now substitute two values that we know. Let's go ahead and use the case of $10 will give us 2,200 sales. So we have 2,200 is equal to -300 times 10 plus b. Or in other words, 2,200 is equal to -3,000 plus b. And then we would add 3,000 to each side. And we would get 5,200 is equal to b. And what that tells us then is we know that sales are equal to -300p plus 5,200. And now that we have that value, and I bet I'm going to run out of room, now that we have that value, we can substitute the price of $14 in place of P. So let me write that over here. Sales will equal negative 300 times the price of 14 plus 5,200. So sales will equal negative 300 times 14 would give us negative 4,200 plus 5,200, or in other words, the sales would equal 1,000. And so if this relationship is linear, then if we raise the price all the way to $14 per bottle, the sales are going to go down to 1,000. Okay, so again, this isn't the only way of doing this. There are a couple different approaches you could take, and if you want to use a different approach, that's fine, as long as you get the correct solution and understand the process that you're using. All right, so there are some applications for you, and as always, good luck.